Hello and welcome to the Battle Line Podcast, where we have conversations on that collision of space between community, faith, and culture. I'm one of your hosts, Matt Satterley, and let me just prep this. Here with me is first day on the job, the National Director of Publications, an editor of Peer Magazine, my co-host on this podcast, my co-host in life, Major Jamie Satterley. Dun, da, da, da. How are you feeling today? How are you feeling today, Major Satterley?
I'm feeling great, although like I've aged overnight.
And we also have with us our co-host, our producer, the one who makes this whole thing work, run, go, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, how are you doing today?
I'm so super wonderful. How are you?
Doing awesome. We are ready to get into this.
Yes, and I'm so excited about today's episode. We're going to talk about one of my very favorite things in the whole wide world, and that is summer camp and the camping ministries that the Salvation Army does each year. Camp is such an important part, not just in youth ministry, but in ministry overall. And so I'm so excited to talk about it and to kind of inform our readers a little bit about the history of Salvation Army camping and what that looks like today.
All right, so let's start it off. Listeners, you can jump in on these conversations as well. We're not going to be able to hear you, but that's cool. All right. What is your, Elizabeth or Jamie, what is your favorite movie or TV show that has to do with summer camp?
All right, Elizabeth, do you want to go first?
I would love to go first because there's only one answer here. It's Camp Rock.
Camp Rock. I will admit to you, I've never seen Camp Rock.
Oh my gosh, what a travesty. You've got to get on Disney Plus.
It's like a music camp, right? Where you learn to be a rock star?
You learn to sing, you learn to dance, you play instruments, have the best summer ever.
Is there a romance that happens at Camp Rock?
Is there a romance? There's the Jonas Brothers.
Yeah, so there has to be romance.
LOVE.
Yeah. So Camp Rock, so it's good. Music camp. The Salvation Army does music camp across the nation. We do what's called music conservatory.
Camp Brass doesn't hit. Doesn't
Camp Brass is
as
the
much
same
as Camp Rock.
Camp Rock. It looks a little bit different, I think, depending on which camp you go to. But in my experience, primarily there will be a junior conservatory that's like 1 week, and that's for the younger kids. And then there will be a summer-long music conservatory for older kids that lasts 4 or 5 weeks. And they learn brass instruments and piano and guitar and praise and worship and singing. And there are creative arts too, like dance and timbrels, because Salvation Army loves them timbrels and all that kind of stuff. So our very own Camp Rock. But you're right, Camp Brass doesn't sound as exciting.
How about you, Jamie? Major Jamie, what's your favorite movie, TV show that has to do with camp?
I have a whole list, so we're going to go back and forth.
Oh, let's
just name them.
Just go for it. Just name them. List them all.
Okay. List them all. That'll take too long, but I'll list you some of the top ones. Parent Trap. Parent Trap had that iconic summer camp. You go, you meet your twin sister. All the camp pranks, the lake. It was just magical, magical time.
The Lindsay Lohan version or nah?
I mean, the original is always better, but I won't dismiss the Lindsay Lohan version. But watch the original first. Then, oh man. So if we're talking about camp shows from your childhood, you cannot leave out Salute Your Shorts.
Oh man, Salute Your Shorts made camp for me. To this day, I cannot watch the episode with Zeke the plumber. I did. Well, that's not true. I did show it to the girls, our daughters, and Zeke the plumber is like this horror, the ghost figure that is at Camp Onawana, and man, that scared the bejesus out of me when I was 9 years old.
Yeah. So you have the iconic donkey lips and all the great theme song. I could still sing you the theme song.
We run, we jump, we swim and play.
Yep. So much fun. So there's Salute Your Shorts. Also, when I was a kid, there was a series of movies, the Ernest movies. Have you heard of these, Elizabeth?
I have not.
Oh man, so it was crazy. It was this guy, Ernest P. Worrell. He's the voice of Slinky, of Slinky Dog from Toy Story. So there's these series of movies, and so it's like Ernest goes to jail, Ernest scared stupid. But one year Ernest went to camp. And it was so great. It was like you had these troubled teenagers who were sent to this camp to try to, get them in line. And anyway, it's just it's a hilarious look at camp. Matt, can we talk for a minute about the Addams Family?
Yeah,
and the camp scene.
Addams Family Values is a camp movie because they get, you send Wednesday and Pugsley Adam to camp, and you've seen that. Everybody's seen that Thanksgiving scene where she Pocahontas, I guess, Wednesday, and then she's in the Native Americans raid the village. It's just amazing.
They flipped the script. She was like, "Oh no,
literally,
we are we are not going down like this." And so the Indians set out to massacre the Pilgrims, and it is just epic.
I still have 4 on my list that you haven't said yet, Major Jamie. Yes. Keep going.
So I was only just going to say we have to give an honorable mention to this year's camp movie, A Week Away, which just made me feel all the feels about summer camp. If you haven't watched
A Week Away on Netflix yet, you need to watch. That'll bring back the Christian camp flutters in your belly.
Yes. If I wasn't already in my feelings about not being a camp director anymore, this movie did not help. It did not help at all. I was like, darn you, Netflix.
All right, I've got 3 more. Are you still going your list?
No, go ahead.
All right, Bug Juice.
Okay.
The reality show that Disney put out about camp was Bug Juice, right? That's what they called the Kool-Aid or whatever they served. And then it was like if Real World meets summer camp
with
in the 90s. Right. And then Bunked. Disney again. Bunked. Just putting that out there.
My kids loved Bunked.
And then the last one, the greatest camp movie to me of my young generation was the movie Heavyweights, the fat camp, like with Ben Stiller as the, what was his, I can't remember his name in the movie, but yeah, he's like a fitness instructor who's trying to sell his infomercials, and all the kids at fat camp keep getting bigger. It's just a great movie. I think Disney made that. I might have just named all 3 Disney things.
Yeah, this is not an advertisement for Disney, by the way. But they had that.
But if they want to sponsor the show, hit us up. Right.
In that movie, they had the Blob. Is that what they called it?
Yeah.
The Blob on the lake.
Air. Yep.
Yes, and I always was like, okay, we need a Blob, but risk management had things to say about that.
But like they hide Snickers bars and stuff in the bedposts like that. So, great movie.
It is a good movie.
Well, we're going to talk about camp throughout this episode. But before we do that, I want to ask Elizabeth and Jamie and our listeners at home. I have a quiz for you. Here, I have 5 questions. You're going to answer yes or no. And the questions are going to be, is this a real camp? Is this a real camp that you can go to? All right. So listeners at home, you can yell out the answer and we will see. All right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Yes. Let's do this.
Is there a such thing as a Game of Thrones camp? Is there such thing as a Game of Thrones camping experience? Yes or no?
Are these kids camps or just any kind of camp?
I primarily looked up kids camps.
Okay, well, if it's a kid camp, I'm going to say no, but it would not surprise me if there were an adult camp out there called Game of Thrones.
How about you, Elizabeth? Yes or no?
This seems wildly inappropriate for children, so I'm going to say no.
The correct answer is no. This is not a real camp. However, these camps exist. There is a Lord of the Rings camp where kids take on a persona in Lord of the Rings. There is a Harry Potter camp that you can go to. And
I would go to that camp.
Then, of course, there's there's definitely a Star Wars camp. There's also a Star Wars camp. All right. Number 2, yes or no? Is spy camp a thing? Spy camp, yes or no?
Yes, there has to be.
How about you, Elizabeth?
Absolutely. That sounds like so much fun.
Spy camp is a thing. It's based out of a little town in Pennsylvania. I looked it up. They teach kids martial arts and surveillance, which seems like the 2 things you don't want to teach children is how to do martial arts and sneak up behind you. And,
yes. Yeah, listen, my youngest is slick enough. The last thing she needs is professional training.
All right. You guys are 2 for 2. Great job. All right. Number 3, vampire camp. Activities only in the evenings. Vampire camp. Yes or no? Is it a real thing?
It seems far-fetched, so I'm going to say yes.
I'm going to go with no.
Vampire camp is not a real camp.
Oh, I'm so glad.
However, there is zombie camp. There is a zombie camp that teaches zombie apocalyptic skills. And at the end, they give kids Nerf guns and They have like a zombie apocalypse with Nerf guns. There you go. All right, number 4, Shark Studies Camp. Shark Studies Camp. Yes or no?
Yes, everybody likes sharks.
Absolutely.
Shark Studies Camp is a camp. Kids get to swim and scuba dive with real live sharks.
Yeah, because nothing says we'll keep your kids safe. Like, let's throw them in there with the sharks.
Sign those waivers.
That's right. Make sure that permission slip is signed off on. All right, last one. Very good. You guys are really good at this. Last one. Amusement Park Camp. Amusement Park Camp. Is this a camp or not?
This would be a phenomenal camp if it existed.
It would.
What do you think, Elizabeth? Yes or no? You must choose. You must choose.
I think it is.
Sure, why not?
Amusement Park Camp is a camp. Here's how you get into it. They go to 12 different theme parks in the span of 2 weeks. So it's a lot of travel, but 12 amusement parks in the span of 2 weeks. Amusement Park Camp.
Can adults go?
I almost put Space Camp on here.
I could write about it for Peer.
That'd be good.
I want in.
Right, let's go.
Well, we want to talk about, summer camp. Again, the Salvation Army has 42 camps throughout the nation, each one in the division, but some of our Salvation Army Corps in the country actually have camps attached to them as well. 50,000 campers came through Salvation Army camps in 2019. And it's cool to see because of the pandemic, camps reopening, camps being able to do these things. But camp changes lives. We believe that. And so we just wanted to hit maybe some talking points of camp. Like, when you go and get like an EKG exam, right? And you get like the heartbeat thing that goes, eat, 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 right? So these talking points, they're not highs, they're not lows. They're just like markers of their EKG beeps on the heart line of camp that we just thought it'd be fun to talk about for a little bit. All right.
Yeah. So, wait, Matt, you wanted to share a little bit about how camp, like what the purpose of camp was when camp started in the Salvation Army. So the story always is amazing to me.
So Salvation Army camps were started, depends where you are in the country, but usually about almost most of our camps are coming up pretty soon, about 100 years old. So it was in the 1915 to 1945, where maybe even a little into the 50s, 60s, where most of the Salvation Army camps were formed up. But they were started in a way to get kids out of out of the cities to a thing where they could, get around nature, of course. Remember, you have to think about this is the 1920s, 1930s. And kids were very malnourished. So what they would do is they would weigh kids when they came there. They would feed kids as much as possible, pretty much the anti-fat camp, right? And then they would weigh kids when they were...
anti-fat camp, opposite of fat camp.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Anti-fat camp sounds unkind.
Opposite of fat camp.
That's opposite of that. Yes.
The inverse of fat camp is what I was trying to say. And then they would measure kids on the way out, weigh kids on the way out, and then they would...
It was considered successful if
the kid
had gained weight while they were there.
Because kids were coming that were, really underweight because they just didn't have the nutrition and things like that at home.
It sounds wild to us now, but at the time, it was a very, child hunger was huge. And it still is, in a lot of parts of the country today, particularly because of the pandemic. We don't do these same practices now. But back then, that was considered a very urgent need to get kids healthy and to make sure that they were getting enough food. So that's how they combated that problem. But it just seems wild. Like we would never do that today, but it met the need.
All right. So some of the points, some of the highlights that we have is the first thing is let's talk about is that camp is awesome because it's a chance for kids to be outside in God's creation, in nature, and not have any technology. They say, the experts have told us that being in nature, being in creation reduces anxiety, stress. Here's the good things that it does in kids, right? Being outdoors regularly increases kids and adults' health, better vision, which is surprising. Kids who are outside a lot get better grades. They're literally nicer. Kids are nicer and kinder. And then it also improves their sleep. So being outside in creation and not having the technology, remember, there's a world outside of phones and screens. And I think in some ways we are losing that with the next generation. average screen time for a kid nowadays, if you're counting TVs, computers, all that stuff for school, 7 hours a day in front of a screen and less than 30 minutes outside a day. So camp tries to invert that, right? So being outside in creation, not having your phone, because you don't need it, right? You just don't need it. So go outside and get the stink off you, right? What they used to say.
Yeah, so it's a great chance, and a lot of our camps are equipped with activities and things that you wouldn't just run across in your neighborhood. Every camp has a place to swim. Some places that's the lake. Most of them it's a pool, and so there's all these swimming activities. There's boating and canoeing and all those kind of things, all with certified lifeguards. A lot of our camps have outdoor like ropes courses where they can, do all the different obstacles or apparatus, and then they'll have like a zip line or a swing or whatever to get down from the ropes course. Again, certified instructors there, making sure that everybody is safe. So it's being outside, but it's also experiencing things outside that you might not normally get to experience, just running around your neighborhood. Some camps, depending on where they are, have horses or chickens or goats or livestock, and some of them have gardens and those kind of things that they're trying to teach kids sustainable living, and it's just such a wide array. And that's one of the things I love about the camps across the nation is that you can find them in all landscapes. I mean, we have camp in Maine that's right there on the shores. We have camp in Hawaii where you're literally right on the beach.
Ponderosa Ranch in the Southwest Division, which is out in
like deserty. Camp in the mountains. Our
Kings
first
Lake.
camp where we were camp directors sat at the base of Mount Sharp Top. And so in the evenings you would get the cool breeze of the valley, but the mountain was always right there. And it was always so beautiful to be able to come out and to see that and just be in that kind of atmosphere. So you really see the landscape of America represented in the Salvation Army's camps across the nation.
It's fun to get a kid from the inner city outside, and when he hears crickets at night or frogs ribbiting at night for the first time, they're like, "What's that? Yeah. What's that noise? Yeah. Is that going to eat me?" And then
by the end of the thing, by the end of the week, they're chasing them and trying to catch lightning bugs and all of these fun kind of things.
There was a book written a few years ago. I think it was called Last Child of the Woods or Last Child in the Woods. But I've never read the book, so I can't vouch for it. But in this book, he talks about that we're losing. He calls it nature deficit disorder, where we are losing our love and appreciation of nature because we're inside so much. And camp just brings that back. Again, hey, listen, Tristan, everybody's going to be okay with not seeing pictures of your food for a couple of weeks. Okay, buddy? You can put your phone down.
Tristan is the one taking pictures of his food.
All right,
Tristan's mom.
Megan, listen. Nobody's gonna be like, oh gosh, I haven't seen a picture of kale salad in 2 days. How about you, Elizabeth? Are you a fan of the outdoors, Elizabeth? You're a big hiker, aren't you, or a walker?
So I love the idea of nature. I like the cool breeze in my hair. I like the smell of nature, but I don't like actual dirt and animals.
I noticed you said I liked the idea.
Well, I love walking.
Outside.
I love paved walking paths. I like looking at the ocean.
But not like swimming in the ocean.
Oh, I've been swimming in the ocean hundreds of years.
Well, Rhode Island is famous for its beaches.
I know.
This is a completely different tangent, but I'd rather swim in a lake than the ocean.
It's because you're from the South.
It is. It's because I'm a country girl who grew up swimming in lakes and creeks and all that kind of stuff. But if you gave me the choice, I'd pick a lake over the ocean any day.
Another great thing about camp is campfires. We saw this in the movie A Week Away. If you haven't seen it, like they sit down together at the end of the night around the campfire. Vespers, right? Like a quiet time at the end of the day. It literally is the lid on a good day jar, right? Like it's quality time. You've bonded all day. You've been hanging out with people, and then you just have this campfire time. Also, I would say that food tastes better when you eat it outside. I don't know if that's scientifically proven, but
it's because you're so hungry from all the other stuff you've done that day.
But you know what else I think is really cool about campfires is it's in that quiet place where God speaks to you. And I think you do kind of see this in that movie A Week Away, where like they bust out. I've never been at camp when people have just started busting out and singing perfect harmonies to "Our God is an Awesome God."
It's because you didn't go to music camp.
You didn't go to Camp Rock.
Hey, did you know that if you ask Google how to build a campfire, it'll give you 200 million matches?
Stop it. That's terrible. Listen, our kids are at summer camp right now, so Matt hasn't had anybody to practice his dad jokes on. So sorry, listeners, you are just going to have to endure.
How about talk to us, Captain Jamie? Campfires.
Yeah. Oh no, campfire is always great. Again, something about the smell, and then the roasting of the marshmallows, and then there's always the debate on what's the perfectly roasted marshmallow. I want mine to be on fire, basically. Perfectly charred on the outside, nice and gooey on the inside. Spicy take, s'mores are not the bomb. They never assemble correctly, and then you take a bite and the graham cracker just disintegrates, and it's just, to me, I don't know. I'm not here for the whole thing. I'll eat all of those things individually. Also, I think here's part of the problem. Whenever people make s'mores, they always want to use Hershey's. Hershey's is trash garbage chocolate. It does not need to be consumed by humans.
If Hershey's wants to sponsor the show.
Now, I will tell you, what makes a good s'more are those Reese Thins. Reese, is that? I'm probably correct. Yeah.
Reese's Thins. Yeah.
The little thin ones. Then you put that on there. Marshmallow. Now we're living a glorious life.
Campfires are those places. It is. And what's so great about them is you've had a great day. You've bonded with friends socially, emotionally, you're connecting with people, but it's in those quiet, almost tired place where people hear the Lord speaks to us in the quietness and the moments. When people say, I think when people say God isn't speaking to me, sometimes I think it's because we're so busy and so distracted with everything else that we don't hear him. And then Campfires is one of those opportunities at camp where you have a quiet place where you can hear him.
Yeah, a lot of times at the Salvation Army camps, this doesn't always happen. This devotion time that he's talking about doesn't always happen around a campfire. Often it does, but a lot of times it happens at places that we call Vespers, the Vespers point. And that's going to look different depending on what camp you're at, but it's almost always usually some sort of cross, and it's a quiet place. A lot of time that's a little bit away from the activity, the hustle and bustle. So you have to quiet yourself as you walk there. There's a little bit of a process to get to that point. So you're able to kind of move into that atmosphere where it's just a quieting down at the end of the day. There's a little bit of singing, usually some kind of thought to wrap up the day, a scripture or a little devotional. And then it's all kind of quieting everything down before you go off to bed.
I don't know what the official statistics are, but I think that there was something done, at least by one of the territories a few years ago, that said how many Salvation Army officers had worked on summer staff. And I think it was as high as like 60-70% of Salvation Army officers. So again, I think that just goes to the point, to support our point of saying that God really does use camp to speak to people, especially in those quiet moments. I would say, as we wrap up Campfires, this is just not a spicy take, but I think just all the ladies need to be aware of this. When you go to a campfire and there's a dude there, if there's one dude there, I guarantee you the guy is thinking, I'll bet you I could jump that campfire. I guarantee you that there is a guy, whether they're 5 years old or 50 years old, they're eating a s'more. They're just looking at that campfire and they're just like, you think, oh, look at them. They're just like staring off, being like spiritual and stuff. He's thinking, I could jump this campfire. I'll bet you I could.
I've never seen somebody actually try and jump the campfire.
I'm telling you.
I mean, I'm not saying that you're wrong. They probably are thinking about it. But parents, rest assured, no kids are allowed to jump the campfire. Yeah, no kids are jumping the campfire.
I'm just telling you, they're just looking at it thinking, because I've done it. I like every campfire. I'm like, I'll bet you I could jump that campfire.
Now I know where Susanna gets it from.
The next thing about camp that's so great is that camp is a place where traditions are held. It is holy ground to some campers. It's a safe place. So, there are traditions at camp. There are things that happen every year at camp that are constant. And in a kid's life changes all the time, right? You go through so many changes when you're a kid. But when you're going to camp, you just know this is going to be constant. This place is going to be there. And there's going to be these camp traditions, like we're going to sing these songs, and we'll talk about camp songs here in a little bit. But for I would say, and again, I'm Salvationist from Salvation Army from the Southern Territory. So Camp Hoblitzell, Camp Grandview, Camp Keystone. These are places in my life that have defined who I am, and they are a part of me now. They are holy ground to me.
Yeah, and so it is. I think, especially so for me, growing up, we moved a lot. Until I was in the 8th grade, we moved every 2 years. And so, that's a lot of transition, a lot of new places and new faces. But camp is one thing that, is always there. It's always the same place. I knew when I got there that summer, there were things that I was going to experience that would, be the same, be constant. You get to see friends from around the state, around the country. So it just became kind of an anchoring point. And so many of our kids, and we still hear that, when we go out in places. I was in a shop one time during the summer, and I was wearing my camp shirt, and the lady was like, "Oh, I was a camper there, 30 years ago." And then, all of a sudden, all these stories come out about, these are the things I loved. And some of those things they loved about camp are things that we still did. A lot of the methods change, I guess, as culture changes and all those kind of things. But there are still some things, swimming, canteen, those kind of things always stay the same. And so it's always interesting when you come across people out in the wild who have experienced camp, and to hear, just how important it was to their lives.
Elizabeth, how about you? Like, I know you said you weren't a big camper, but is there like a place in your life that you say is like, it's tradition for you? It's like a holy ground. It's like a safe place for you?
Fox Ridge.
Explain that to us.
Fox Ridge is in North Conway, New Hampshire. It was my favorite place to vacation in the summer with my family. And they had a mini golf course. It was on like a mountain. It was my jam.
So it's is it like Dirty Dancing? Like that place where you go?
Okay, that's like my dream to go there, BTW. But
you can go there. It's in Virginia.
I know. It's like 3.5 hours. Yeah. I've mapped it out. But it's not as luxurious, nor is it on a lake. But I got to play my shuffleboard there. So it was fun.
It's cool. I think camps are a safe place for kids because they know when they're there, they get to just be kids. They get to be safe places. Again, I can't tell you how many times parents and even Corps officers have come and said, "Oh, this is a bad kid. You're going to send him home. You're going to call me because he's a bad kid." But once this kid gets to camp, he has the time of his life, and we never have a problem with them. I think just because they just it's home. It's almost home.
Yeah, and they get to it's busy and they're active and all those kind of things. Sometimes we put kids in classrooms and expect them to have, this perfect behavior. And that's not how kids are wired. They're full of energy and are wired for activity. And so, we don't always understand why kids don't conform to the things that we're trying to make them do. But camp gives them an opportunity to use that natural energy that they have. And it's just so much fun.
A 7-year-old is physically incapable of behaving like a 47-year-old. So
yeah, they just can't do it.
All right, next. Here's the next thing we love about camp. We're gonna hit these quick here. Is there is some element of risk at camp, and that's okay. Parents, hear me. Camp helps conquer fears, right? Like we used to say. Jamie, do you want to explain like the 3 S's that we used to say at camp, and then tell them a little bit about focus on that last S, spark or spunk?
Yeah. So our mission that we always tried to train into our staff was that our camp experience, we really wanted to kind of encapsulate in these 3 S's. So you had souls, safety, sparkle, how you want to say it. So souls would be that everybody that comes through camp, the camp gates, whether it's a camper, a staff member, a volunteer, a delivery guy, that everyone would know Jesus, that they would be discipled, that they would know him better. So that's soul. Safety. A lot of the campers that come to us come from places where they may not always experience physical safety or emotional safety. And so we always said that we wanted camp to be a safe place for kids, a physically safe place. Obviously, we never want anybody to get injured on our camps. So we want them to be physically safe, but we also wanted them to be spiritually and emotionally safe, a place where they didn't have to worry about, any kind of maybe verbal abuse or anything like that. And then sparkle. We wanted kids to encounter opportunities that would give them the chance to find their spark, to kind of realize who it is that God created them to be. What is it in them that makes them who they are, that they would find their identity in Jesus, and that they would find their sparkle. That's where that word comes from. So we would at the end of every week, we would have our closing out staff meeting, and we would ask, where did you see God moving? Tell me a time when you saw one of these 3 S's in motion. Or we would say, if you're going to have your kids do an activity, it needs to meet one of these goals. So how is this keeping kids safe? Or how is this helping their soul? How is this helping them to find their sparkle? And so, especially that last one, camp has a lot of great opportunities. Sometimes we have kids who think that they can't do challenging things. They've never, encountered that, or they've never had the opportunity to conquer fear. So they might be terrified to go down the zip line.
But when I interject here too, Major
Sure.
Jamie too, that like I think sometimes we base risk based on gender as well.
That's
like
right.
We say, oh, girls aren't going to do this, or boys aren't really going to do that. But as you're just talking, I want to make sure that we make that point. At camp, we think that girls can do, they can go down zip lines and go off diving boards and do these things, and guys can do these things as well. It's not based just on gender.
Right. Yep. And so, a kid might think, I could never do that. But when you have an encouraging staff member or somebody who's speaking these things into them and helping them realize, I can do this. And then to see their faces when they do it, and you can see the connection being made in there. Okay, I overcame something. I can conquer these fears. I can do these challenging things. And that changes something in the life of a child or an adult. And so camp just presents all those kind of opportunities. We had this one camper, I always remember, who really struggled to kind of express himself in a positive way. He had a hard time connecting with other campers, knowing, kind of finding where his place was. And a lot of times that resulted in acting out and behaviors, that were challenging. And so, you're trying to figure out, how to help this kid get to a place where they can express themselves in positive ways. And I remember one day our office was right next to the tabernacle. So whenever there was tabernacle time going on, you could hear the music and all these things. And you begin with the music was playing, and then you begin to hear this chanting. And so you're like, okay, something special is happening over here. So we went to see what was going on. And it was like the end. All of the campers had formed this kind of massive dance circle in the middle of the tabernacle. And in the center of the dance circle was this kid who had struggled all week to kind of find what his place was. And he was just getting after it. It was the most epic dance. And, everybody's cheering him on. And you can see in his face, the glow, they're cheering, people are cheering and people are yelling, but it's yelling in a positive way. Nobody was fussing at him or anything like that. And it was just so much encouragement, and you could just see him blossom right there in the center of a dance circle. And camp gives those opportunities for kids to find themselves at the top of a ropes course, or on the diving board, or in the middle of a dance circle, or riding a horse, things they might have thought they could never do.
All right.
And then they find their sparkle.
Risk is just a part of camp, but it does help conquer fear. And when we say risk, we're talking can you go off the diving board this year? Can you move up one color in the swim band, right? Like your swim test, instead of just getting the red band because you have to stay in the shallow end. Can you get a yellow band this year, or whatever color you use? The ropes course. Can you go up one level higher on the ropes course?
Yeah, I would always love to see the kids who maybe the year before or even the week before were in kind of the shallow section because they weren't strong swimmers. But after attending swim class for the week or whatever, they were able to move up to the next level, and they would be so excited to learn, now I can go off the slide, or now I can go off the diving board. And camp just really helps kids, reach that potential that we see inside of them, but they may not always be confident enough to see in themselves.
Yeah, I think you're right too, Major Jamie. You said kids, but I think you said adults as well. And I think adults, we sometimes forget this. We're thinking, we're out at camp age. Guys, we should still have an element of risk to our lives. Let's do one thing that you haven't done before. Maybe it may not be, you may know how to swim. Maybe you don't know how to swim. That's okay. Go to learn how to swim. Do something that you haven't done before. Go one step further. Let me just say this, because I did look up the statistics, because I know this is very hard. There are some moms out there and some dads who are having a very hard time letting their kids go. So I did look up the stats there is a 0.15 chance of an injury happening for every 1,000 hours of play that a kid goes to. Okay. So for every 1,000 hours that a kid is outside playing or anywhere playing, there's a not even a 1%, not even 0.5%, 0.15, 0.15 of a percent chance of a kid getting hurt while they're out there. Right. So the risk is much lower than we think. And the Salvation Army, our camps are getting, and most of them are, and the last ones are getting there, are ACA, American Camping Association related, safety rated. And
which is a very tough process. They don't just hand out licensing ACA and stuff for that. It is very tough process to go through.
It just builds, camp builds self-esteem. I can do these things. I can sleep. I
can be away from mom and dad.
I can be away from mom and dad. I can sleep in a cabin. I can sleep with these in the dark. Like I remember again the same stories Jamie was telling. Like I remember the kid who came and they said, "Oh, he's a germaphobe. He doesn't like to get messy." And I was like, "Okay, like we'll do our best to accommodate that kind of stuff." And then by the end of the week, that kid was sliding the first one down the messy Hershey chocolate syrup,
baked beans, slide. Chocolate syrup, and the kid's just like dripping.
He's got ant bites all over him because he's been going barefoot for 4 days.
The biggest smile, the biggest smile across their face. They're like covered in baked beans, but so happy to be there.
Kids drinking Sprite through a dirty sock, like again. And then my favorite was when they got the cow tongue and they had to like pass it. It was a boys' night program. They had to pass the cow tongue through their shirt, right?
There was a string.
They had to drop it through their shirt and then pass it to the kid behind him, and he had to drop the cow tongue. So, it's like to us, that's silly, but to kids, I can do this. It's building self-esteem from that. So moms and dads out there, camp helps conquer fears. And in the world that is so anxious, we need every little bit that we can. All right. Well, let's move up a little bit in age range as we get ready to land the plane here. But one of the best things about camp when you get to summer camp is, and you see this in all of the TV shows and the movies that we talked about, is getting you a camp boyfriend or camp girlfriend, camp boo, camp bae, camp boo thang. All right. So it's funny, like there's something to be said about camp, especially when it comes to like summer staff, because you're around the same group of people for like 6 weeks, right? So there's no outsiders. So relationships are formed for sure. But like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard this before, but like you can say like there's on a scale of 1 to 10 of how good looking a person is, but then there's a camp scale of 1 to 10, right? So like you could say like, this is mean, but it's funny, right? You could say, oh, he's a camp 9, but he's a 4 outside of camp, right?
That is mean.
Because listen, as a guy who was a 4 outside of camp, I hear you.
Everybody looks rough at camp. It's just how it is.
No, I think what they're saying is like everybody looks
right,
better
but everybody's on the same thing. Everybody's on that level playing field because everybody is hot and sweaty and all those things. Yeah. So there's not as much disparity. Everybody's in the same boat. So,
and I will say, as a, we have to say this: Major Jamie and me met at camp, started dating at camp, and almost got married at camp, but we just didn't have enough money.
They were booked up on the weekend. Yeah. So they, yes, I was going to say, I had a camp boo, but my camp boo is the same every summer. Every summer that I worked, and of course, as camp director,
he was a camp 9, but an outside 4.
I always tell the camp staff, I'm like, listen, make sure you really think it through when you say yes. This could be the best yes you ever say. It might stick with you for your whole life. So give it some thought, then move forward.
I was a lonely dishwasher in the heat of the Texas night with a female counselor, Jamie Barnhouse, soon to be Satterley. So it is funny, like when you work summer staff and boyfriend girlfriend stuff like camp, it really is. It could be a reality show. I mean, I think Bug Juice did it well, but there is something about like it's like The Bachelor meets
Survivor.
So it's fun, and again, like good DYSs and good youth leaders will make sure that. Everybody knows that the rules before you go into camp for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's always part of orientation. Campers are never to know that staff are in relationships and all those kind of things. Cause again, that's camper safety. They don't need to be knowing about all that stuff. It's just not part of that experience.
We had a word in summer staff, Jamie and I, called stickwoo. And there are listeners out there who may not know what stickwoo is. There are a few who do. If you know, you know. But stickwoo was one of those words where if you were getting too close, we would say stickwoo.
Yeah. And then they would know, oh, I'm about to violate a policy. Yep. So yes, camp girlfriend, camp boyfriend. Listen, the only downside of our having a successful camp relationship is that I can't say, listen, why are you so
You're never going to
torn
see
up
them
about this?
again.
It's not going to last forever. Sometimes it does last forever, dear listeners. Thankfully, sometimes it does last forever. But man, it sure did take my ability to say that to a staff member. Took it right out the window.
For sure. Well, one of our first camps, we were Major Jamie and I were divisional youth leaders, the camp directors, and one of the staff members was crying on the front porch of the dining room. And so I went over to ask, being pastoral. I said, "Hey, what's going on?" And she said, in tears, she turned to me and said, "My boyfriend just Snapchatted another girl." And so I didn't know what that meant. So I turned to Jamie and I just said, "You handle this." And I walked away.
He was like, "I'm calling in the relief." Your turn.
Yep, you know,
tag.
like in baseball, when they call in a relief pitcher, I literally looked at Major Jamie, tapped my arm for the relief pitcher to come in, and then I walked away
because I didn't know. This one's you.
When the love's not as real as mine and Major Jamie, but when most people, they break up at the end of the summer, which is just such a, like you said, Elizabeth, such like a jerk move, right? Like you're like, we're going to be together forever. And then September 1, you're like, hey, well, you're going back to your house. I'm going to my house on the other side of the state.
Camp love.
Speaking of music, let's talk about camp songs as we get ready to, again, I said we're going to land this plane, but we're still going because camp just keeps rocking. So camp songs are great. Now, some people hate them, but they are really a highlight of camp. I mean, I'm thinking Wishy Washer Woman, Purple Stew, Plant a Watermelon, Ravioli, Awake Alive Alert. What's the one everybody here knows? Harry. And some of these camp songs are only known in regional places in the United States, but camp songs are like a highlight of camp.
Yeah, they are. And I would find myself when my kids were babies, and you're in the middle of the night just trying to sing them back to sleep. The most random camp songs, or when they're toddlers and they think everything is funny, camp songs are perfect.
Because they don't make sense.
No, they don't. And so the kids just think they're hilarious. But those are some of the most fun things I can remember about camp as a kid. And most of them I can still probably sing to you. Just because they just embed themselves in you. It's a great part of the camp experience. Now we've added some things, like it's not all just fun camp songs. Now there are, like the Cupid Shuffle and all those kind of things.
Sunshine
after the rain. It's more, we involve technology now instead of just singing.
Yeah.
Like we used to.
And if your camp has an anthem, if your camp has its own song, that is beast level camp right there. Not too many camps do, but man, if you can get one and everybody knows it, that's when you've reached the next level.
Yes. And so that was one of our best things. I think one of my favorite memories from being a camp director at Camp Keystone is that Matt commissioned our divisional music director to write a song for Camp Keystone. They have this great tradition there where they do this table clap, which just involves a lot of pounding on the tables it's supposed to be in a rhythm, but by the end there's no rhythm. But the song incorporates that table clap, and it's just so fun, and the kids love it. They get to stand on their chairs, which usually isn't allowed, and so it's always fun
it's a bit of risk.
Yeah, when you get to sing the camp anthem, everybody gets into it.
I've heard of people, and this just, if you don't think that camp songs are important, I have heard of people that have asked for camp songs to be sung at their funeral just because they want the memories of people to be there. Again, camp changes lives. Still, like, it just gives great memories. And plus, it's an opportunity for people to laugh and sing a song at a funeral that absolutely does not make sense, right? You would think we're going to sing Amazing Grace or something like that. But to get up there and sing a song about Purple Stew or something like that is just silly. And last thing too, I've heard a bunch of people who perhaps used to be Christians and who have, fallen away from the faith and have become atheists. I heard this once in a podcast. They asked this guy who used to be a Christian, but he had kind of wandered from the faith. And they said, "What did you miss most about Christianity? What do you miss most about the church?" And he said, "I miss the singing. I miss the singing of people just getting together in a group and singing." So sometimes, again, it's easy for us to be like, roll our eyes when we hear, camp songs, but they are important to people. And they do bring up like a fellowship, a camaraderie, especially at camp. All right, last thing. One of the best things about working at camp is working summer staff. It is the best time of your life. Working summer staff is one of your best times ever. To be at camp and you get to make some money while you're at it. It doesn't feel like work to me. I never thought I was working. I just thought, man, these are suckers. I get to be at camp and they're giving
and they're
me money.
paying me.
Right. And again, we did talk about, it's a pipeline, I think, to officership, right? Like, kids go to Vacation Bible School. They start coming to the Corps. They involve themselves more in Army programming, and then eventually they get to be 15. Most camps maybe higher at 15, depending.
16, yeah.
Yep. And
Depending
then
on the camp.
certain ages you have to be 18, of course, counselors and stuff like that. But then I think there's just like that pipeline, and summer staff is a very important part of that. Go ahead, Major J.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say it helps young people stay engaged in the mission. When young people have opportunity to be responsible and to take part in the mission, they feel a sense of ownership, and then it helps them to stay active and involved in those kind of things. And so, yeah, it is a great, not just for officership, but just being engaged in the church and community and staying active in mission. Camp is a great way to encourage that in a young person. And it really is working summer staff. So between working as a teenager and being a camp director, I spent 10 summers working on summer staff. And they were the best 10 summers. If I could find a way to do this job from summer camp, I would still be there.
You really do. Even it is like a class reunion. Like you build family for life. I still talk to people that I've worked with. I mean, social media has made it so much easier. Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. I still talk to people that I worked with on camp staff with back in 2001.
Yeah.
We still
have a friend. We were at that summer. For some reason, he was known as New Guy. This was 20 years ago. We still call him New Guy. His name's Steven.
He has a name. Officer now.
Yeah, he is. He has a name. He has a rank. He's in charge of a Salvation Army unit. We still call him New Guy.
Props to Captain Stephen Wildish in the Tallahassee, Florida Corps, who for the longest time we called New Guy. He's been in the Salvation Army forever.
I mean, he's a full-grown man now, and he still gets called New Guy. And his wife always says, "I can tell who worked summer staff with him because they all call him New Guy." But you become family again for that summer. You're in this together. You're trying to accomplish this mission together. And so you do become family. And it's just so much fun. It is life-changing. Even as the camp director, in my 10th summer, I would still say it changed my life, just being around the kids, being around the summer staff, experiencing that kind of ministry together. Again, I would do it. Salvation Army personnel people, I would do it for the rest of my life.
I'm going to end with this. You want to know what one of my sick, guilty pleasures is of working summer staff? Being a divisional youth leader is when kids work summer staff and you hand them their first paycheck and they open the paycheck and they discover the joy of taxes. And so I know it's sick. I'm sorry. But to look at their face when they realize how much money they just...
Captain, you said I was getting paid X amount of money. And we're like, oh... my love, Uncle Sam. That's who
That's my favorite.
It's the
my
man.
favorite thing is to sit in the office and watch these kids tear open that first paycheck. And they're like, and then just to see almost the disappointment in their face of like,
it gave us a good opportunity to teach them a life lesson, which is another great thing we should say about working summer staff. Is it was a great way for young people to experience what it's like to have a job, to work, to have responsibility, what it's like to get a paycheck. We always taught did a little bit of a budgeting thing during our orientation.
Because they just spend their money on Domino's pizza.
Oh man, yes, that first paycheck is gone in an hour. And so it was a good opportunity for us to build life lessons into them and to say, hey, maybe let's put down some priorities, goals you're wanting to save for. I'm going to see you on social media in November talking about how you wish you could afford tickets to your favorite concert. And if you didn't buy brand new shoes every week, you could afford those tickets in November. Or, we would have counselors who were saving for college, and just to being able to talk to them and, at the beginning of the summer, how much they had saved to be able to afford books and how much at the end of the summer, the dent they made. We used to play this really fun game in the office too about trying to figure out whose package was getting delivered and what was in the package. That was one of my favorite things, is like shake the Amazon box and be like, what's in this?
Once summer staff learned they could shop online, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And so then we would like shoes, all kinds of opening of the packages to see, okay, like, let me see what you're ordering. Is that helping you? I remember you told me your goal was to pay for your whole semester's worth of books. How are you doing on that? Do those pretty shoes you just got in the mail help you accomplish that goal? Then you become the camp mom, and they sneak the packages away from you so they don't get lectured.
Again, to put a cap on this, to put a campfire on our summer camp talk. There are 42 Salvation Army camps across the nation that are meeting right now as you're listening to this. 50,000 campers came through a Salvation Army camp in 2019. I imagine that number will be lower this year just because we're still coming out of the pandemic. But again, last thing, like we said, camp is probably one of the most evangelistic things that we can do. And by 2019 numbers, 25,000 kids out of the 50,000 made a decision to follow Jesus, to accept him as their Lord and Savior at a Salvation Army camp. Again, those are camp changes lives. Now, those kids need to be discipled. It can't just be one and done. But like Jesus Theater that is coming out from our friends from the brothers in the Eastern Territory, it's just a great program. Camp changes lives and eternities. And if you have a son or daughter or a grandson or granddaughter or anybody you know who is old enough to work at camp, man, next year when the applications go around, get your kids, get them working at camp. It will change their life for sure.
Look at it. Make sure they're looking at it early. Camp hiring starts in January, sometimes as early as December, the summer before. And then make sure if you go on the Peer website, there's a thing that says work at camp, and you can click there and it'll give you links to every camp across America so you can see what's local to you. We'll take you to their website.
And why not? Like, mix it up. Like, say, look, I live in this place. Why don't I try working at camp in Montana? There's not a Salvation Army camp in Montana, but still.
Yeah, I mean, you could be from Oklahoma and test out a camp, work at a camp in Maine or New Jersey or whatever.
For sure. Come on. Risk. A little bit of risk. All right, Major Jamie, what's our last question of the day?
Yeah. Okay, here we go. What is giving you joy? Elizabeth, what's giving you joy today?
It's Trix cereal.
Nice.
I rediscovered this past week, and oh my gosh, it has given me such joy.
Did you just explain to us the aisle? Like you were going down the cereal aisle and you just saw it and you were like...
I was going down the cereal aisle, and I typically go for like a honey, what do you call those, honey Cheerios?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But then I saw...
The OG.
The great classic. These were on sale, and I thought to myself, those are fun. And so I thought, why not? And holy guacamole, what a delight, my friends. You could have it dry with milk any time of the day, morning, noon, night.
Is Trix the cereal that you said, Silly Rabbit? Is that what is it? Silly Rabbit? Trix are for kids. And it's grown people. They're good.
Very grown people, absolutely.
I firmly believe that whatever falls through the grating when they're making Trix becomes Fruity Pebbles. They sell it for...
Matt has opinions on breakfast cereal.
Everything. Like it's a whole... You've seen that cereal. All of you listeners out there, you've seen that cereal aisle. It is ridiculous. Like,
even Lillian, who's 14, is like, Mom, some of these cereals are completely unnecessary.
There are way many choices. I mean, s'mores cereal.
Like, Elizabeth, would you say Honey Nut Cheerios is your all-time favorite cereal?
It's my classic. I feel sophisticated when I eat that, but it's probably just as sugary. Yeah. So,
Cinnamon Toast Crunch is mine.
Oh yes.
You're both wrong. It's Captain Crunch.
Oh my gosh.
Captain Crunch is what you eat when you want to shred. You're like, I feel like shredding the roof of my mouth today. I'll eat Captain Crunch.
As a Salvation Army officer and a respecter of rank, I will expect better from you from Captain Crunch. Put some respect on his name, please.
Captain Crunch is garbage. Rolling out the opinions here today. All right, Matt, what's giving you joy? Don't say Captain Crunch.
No, well, okay. But I'm in the sports. Like, it's just like, I love this time of sports right now. Listen to this. Like, I'm having like a pandemic of playoffs right now. I mean, you got the NHL, Tampa Bay Lightning at this time up 2-0 over the Montreal Canadiens, eh? And then you've got the NBA playoffs, my Atlanta Hawks. I mean, I'm not a huge NBA fan, but like, I'll cheer for Atlanta because it's Atlanta. So if you're in the Southern Territory, you have to. So they're as things are going well and you get NBA playoffs. Then on top of that, we get the Euro Cup, right? So we can watch. I'm not a huge soccer fan, but I can watch Iceland play Macedonia. Why not? Okay. And then I know I just offended all of Europe. I'm sorry. And then what was the last one?
Oh, the Olympics are coming.
Hold on. I didn't even think about them. Baseball. My wife and I have gone to a couple minor league games because the weather's been nice.
Trying to pass the time when the kids are gone.
Right. And then you're right. The Olympics are coming up even on a 2021. So I'm just like, you can't turn on the TV and not be entertained right now. If you're not entertained by all of TV or The Bachelorette, then I'm just kidding. So that's what's giving me joy right now is like, you cannot.
You look so excited right now.
You cannot turn on the channel without seeing some sort of sport playoff.
Yes. All the sports. And
What's
great
giving you
sports
joy?
News going on right now. If you're a big sports fanatic, I know everybody's got opinions on these new Supreme Court rulings that are coming out about the NCAA and the NIL and all that kind of stuff. So
name, image, likeness.
Yeah, it is a crazy world right now. And
if you want me to sell you my name, my image, or my likeness, if you want to sponsor the show, hit me up. How about you, Major Jimmy? What's giving you joy
right now? Plants. Plants are giving me joy. So I can see Matt rolling his eyes right now. I have a plant list of plants that I would like to acquire. And last weekend we went to a garden center. And
they're
right
like Pokemon. You got to catch them all.
Yes. And sometimes they're insanely expensive, especially because of the pandemic. So many people got into plants that it kind of drove the price up. But I've been looking for a Monstera plant for a while. And I keep finding them that are far out of my price range. But this weekend I found one that was affordable, and it has been repotted, and it is in my living room, and it is bringing me all the joy. And I'm so into it now that I have an app that helps me keep track of all my plants, and it tells me when to water them and when they need more sun and why the leaves are falling off and all this great stuff. And Matt just rolls his eyes at me. I have to have something to take care of when my children are at camp. But I have, I will tell you, this is a plant loving is a sickness that runs in my family. My sister acquired 50 plants over the course of the pandemic, 50 additional plants to what she already had.
Plant lady is one gateway drug step away from cat lady.
Listen, I will gladly bear the title of crazy plant lady. It's fine. There are worse things you could be than a crazy plant lady.
That's going to end this episode. That's going to end this episode of the Battle Line Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the Battle Line wherever you listen to podcasts. Be in prayer for all that's going on in summer camps around this year. And if, again, as Major Jamie said, be sure to check out the Peer website, peermag.org, and check out peermag.org/workatcamp for next year. Follow Peer on the socials at peer.magazine. And lastly, we have a sister podcast, which Major Jamie is now, again, kind of taking over. And Elizabeth, listen, I'm all alone over here. I am putting in the work on the Battle Line Podcast. And folks, so the sister podcast, should say the name of it. It's called the Fight for Good Podcast. Check them out, please. Until next time, this has been the Battle Line Podcast. Bye.
See ya.